I love that word secret, especially when it comes to bass fishing. We'll be right back, and I'm going to show you my old school way of fishing a wiggle wart and maybe something else that I stole from other people. It's not my idea at all. I'll be right back. This is just so easy to do. And it works in water temperatures, say from below 44 degrees or so, the best anyway, in the spring. And the fall's different. Fall, as the water's cooling, fish are more aggressive. Here in the winter, going towards spring, as the water warms up, fish are a little more lethargic. So you can throw that wiggle wart out and just crank it in real slow. Stop it once in a while, bang it off the rocks. That's the key to fishing a wiggle wart. But what I do, especially when fishing is tough or when the water's really cold, is I'll crank that bait down. When I'm starting to hit bottom, I'm going to drag it. Just like that. I'm going to stop, catch back up, and drag it again. Hopefully, the whole time it's maintaining contact with the bottom and bouncing off the rocks. You can't really fish when he's slower. The trick is when you're dragging that bottom, it can't come back up. So that's the trick to that bait. And it's just something that works really well in real cold water. And if I can get it hung at a rock right there, it's even better yet, because I'll pop it loose real careful. It's a great technique to not get hung up with. You'll feel stuff ahead of time sometimes. But dragging that wiggle wart, it's just so simple. Now, I didn't invent this. I stole it from a guy named Dave Barker. Most everybody here in the Ozarks knows about this. But if you're in North Carolina or Tennessee or Kentucky or somewhere else where you throw wiggle warts like you ought to in this cold water on rocky banks, you need to understand that retrieve. It works real well. Works with that rock crawler too. I'm dragging it 15 to maybe 20 inches at a time. I want to get out of sorts with it. And crank back, stop, and drag it again. It's that simple. And it's just barely, I can see the line moving. I can't hardly feel the bait. I can see the line moving. You stop. That gives you your change and retrieve. Crank back to it and do it again. And if you can hit a spot where you're actually like behind a rock and stops, that's a perfect time to crank back, because the bait is sitting there then for a split second. And it's that little change up that makes them fish bite. It's a great retrieve on any kind of bank. I'm on a little bit flat bank right here, but truthfully, there's people surrounding me right now. The best bank's taken right now behind me. So that's the way you do that, y'all. It's so simple. And that dragging that bait also works with something else. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, y'all, I'm doing this on 10-pound line right here. 8-pound works real well also. There's no point going very heavy line. The wiggle wart doesn't dive real deep anyway on its own. We don't want to take anything away from it, especially this time of year. I'll be lucky to get 6 foot out of this thing on a long cast. But I'm looking for those fish that are up there in that 6 foot and 5 foot zone that want to bite. Keep that line light. Don't try to overpower it. If you're fishing that kind of heavy cover and you're worried about that, you need to be doing a different technique maybe. I mean, if it works for you, great. But for me, 8 to 10 pound line, very long casts, and let that bait get down there and do its job. Point your rod at it and drag it. Point your rod at it, come back and drag it. Nice little stop in between. Look at that. If you feel it hit something, bounce off of it, stop it a second. Just same way as the other retrieve, but that drag thing, it makes you fish the bait pretty slow, because you just got to drag it fast enough it stays on the bottom. I'm dragging it right toward me, so I'm only getting about a 14, 15, 16 inch drag this way. It's fine. Y'all give that a shot, see if it don't work for you. It takes patience, but it does work. So let's talk about that retrieve as it applies to a jerkbait, because it's not a very good jerkbait day, but that's the day when this retrieve kind of works. Make my cast my jerkbait, crank it or twitch it down to depth. Here, that'd be 6 or 7 foot with this bait, 8-pound line, spinning rod, Mega Bass 110+1 style. Bait suspended perfect right now, just sitting there. Give it my twitches. I'm basically shaking the line, not shaking the bait much. Let it set. Couple twitches. Nothing major. Van. Okay, ready? Sitting there. The bait is not moving, I promise. Okay, give it a couple twitches, and then I'm going to drag it. 15, 20 inches, I'm going to drag it, and I'm going to stop it. Folks, for whatever reason, I think the fish are sitting there looking at that bait, staring it down, following it slowly maybe, and all of a sudden it starts swimming away from them. Now, you don't want to pull it too fast, just enough maybe it starts to wobble. I don't know if I've ever really experimented with that or not, to see how fast I'm pulling it. Pauses, little twitches. You don't yank a jerkbait in cold water. Well, okay, that's another thing. Little twitches, then a yank once in a while. I think it makes them bite, but just that drag, that slow pull, 15, 20-inch pull, works so many times. It does work better on these high, bright, clear days that aren't very good jerkbait days. That help y'all? Make some sense?